Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw. I'm here in Liverpool, England, and we're here at the Magical Beatles Museum. And I'm here with Roag Best, the owner and entrepreneur for this wonderful museum. And who is Roag Best? Well, his brother was Pete Best, the original drummer of the Beatles. We're going to talk about this wonderful new attraction. It's less than a year old here in Liverpool, and a whole lot more on Insider Travel Report. Now, Roag, I was here with you about 3 years ago, and we went to your first attraction, which is the Kasbah Club, the very first club, one of the first that the Beatles played at, or the original Beatles. I guess it was the Quarrymen back there. Was that right?
Well, they started as the Quarrymen, and then they disappeared for a little while, and then they came back as the Silver Beatles. Pete joined them as a Silver Beatle, and then they became the Beatles, of course. Yeah. So they played at the Kasbah on 13 occasions as the Quarrymen, and on 76 occasions as the Beatles. But the big thing about the Kasbah is the first time the Beatles played in this country, played in Liverpool, was on the 17th of December 1960, and it was at the Kasbah Coffee Club, and the band really formed at the Kasbah. They came together
and indeed,
there.
Your mother, it was in the basement of your mother's house, right?
That's right, yeah. She was Liverpool's first female promoter, Mona Best, and she was quite a force to be reckoned with, James.
I can imagine. And then, of course, later you have another connection because your father ended up being sort of the head of all the operations roadies for the Beatles in there for a long time, right?
Yeah, my dad, Neil Aspinall, began as their roadie, then he became their road manager, and he eventually became the managing director of Apple Corp. So he was spearheading such projects as the Love Show in Las Vegas, the Beatles One album, the anthology series, and a load of other spearheading as well.
Yeah, no, he was there. So you really grew up surrounded by the Beatles, right?
Yeah, basically our family, I've got a foot in both camps, the Best family, the Aspinall family, but both families are interwoven into the Beatles fabric.
Now, talk a little bit. So a few years ago, you were working, and people you gave me a tour of the Kasbah Club, which was wonderful. And then a couple of years ago, you decided you had this incredible collection that you wanted to share with the world. And here we are in Liverpool, and this just opened about a year ago, right?
Yeah, a year ago, James. I was 10 years trying to find a location for the museum. I wanted to do a museum because of the size of the collection. I've been told that I've most probably got the largest Beatles collection in the world, with rarities, one-off items, etc. And I was 10 years trying to find a building. I wanted the building to be on Matthew Street,
which is where the Cavern Club, the replica, I guess, of the Cavern Club is.
Yeah, the original Cavern Club was here. It was knocked down in 1973, I think. Someone out there might say no, it wasn't. It was 74. Shoot me. No, don't. No, don't. But then there's the tribute cavern now at the top of Matthew Street, which is very popular. But Matthew Street is the epicenter of Liverpool's nightlife. It's also the epicenter of Liverpool's tourism. So it made sense that it should be here. But trying to get a building on Matthew Street took 10 years.
Yeah, I know you were telling me how difficult it was and how many times you thought you had something and it didn't.
Close on 3 occasions, and at the third occasion my heart was just broken. I thought, that's it, I give up. And a chance meeting in a car park with an old friend, and he told me he'd just been offered a building on Matthew Street 20 minutes prior to us bumping into each other, and I had him frog marches both back into the city centre and to see the owner at that time, and a deal was agreed within 30 minutes. So I got the building in the end.
Well, congratulations, because it's wonderful. And talk a little bit about how you've organized this collection, because we kept rising in the floors, and it kept going for like 4 floors, really.
Yeah, well, the rising up through the floors, I'm glad you mentioned that, is also to do with like the Beatles rising in their career as they're getting bigger and higher in their career. It's spread over 3 floors. The first floor is 59 to 62.
That's when your Pete was part of was the drummer.
Pete was there during that time. Each floor has been designed differently. The colour scheme to each floor is different. And as I mentioned earlier when we were having a little walk around, James, 59 to 62 is all black and white and greys because the photographs of that time were black, white and grey. The second floor, 63 to 66. At the end of 62, colour film came along. We're seeing colour programmes, colour TV, and so the 63 to 66 floor is very, very colourful. And then 67 to 70, originally that floor's all white because we originally planned to have psychedelic projections everywhere. But when we did that, it was, as one of my partners pointed out, he said, I love this. One criticism. And I said, yeah, go on, what's the criticism? He said, I'm not looking at the items anymore. He said, I'm too busy staring at the walls. And I thought, oh,
can't do that.
No, we can't do that. That defeats the whole exercise. Yeah. So now we just have beautiful stills projected onto the walls.
Yeah, well, it's amazing, and it goes all the way up to the top where you have even up to the end when they finally broke up, and you have some of the legal documents that involve the lawsuits involving the breakup of the Beatles, right?
Yeah, right at the end of it is basically paperwork to do with the band. Actually, that's it. It's over. They're in court. Everyone's suing everybody, and so we have some items from that, and then the very last thing, December 1970. I was looking through the collection thinking, what can I get that's right at the back end of 70 when it's over, and the penny dropped. I thought, oh, Apple in-house poster. They were only given to Apple staff, so that's the very last thing you see. December 1970, an in-house poster from Apple.
Well, it's not just that. There's so many little items around that you say, I didn't know that. I didn't know that this was the case. I know you told me that Paul had gotten thrown out of Hamburg, because of some trumped-up charge, and they ended up having to leave, but then came back, and that's a whole story that I did not know.
Yeah, Paul and Pete were accused of arson, so they were frog marched. They were locked up in prison overnight, and then they were driven to the airport in handcuffs, taken onto the plane in handcuffs. And they both said it was very, very embarrassing because everyone was looking at them as if they were these hardened criminals. Then the handcuffs were taken off on the plane, and they were sent home to Liverpool. And then over the following months, our mother worked with Peter Eckhorn, who was the owner of the Top 10 Club, with regards to getting the Beatles back to Hamburg to play his club, and Mo did all the backwards and forwards and negotiations with the German consulate until eventually the Beatles' apology was accepted. Wow. The charges were dropped. This time they got proper work permits, and they went back to Hamburg.
No, it's an amazing story, and you can find a lot of those stories here in the collection. Now, you also have a lot more that you can display, and I think you have plans to display even more, right?
Yeah, in the museum at this moment in time, James, there's only 10% of the collection, so we're adding all the time. We stopped adding round about the back end of May because it was just too busy. There was too many people here. So May, June, July, August, September, we didn't add anything, but now we've gone, we need to start that push again, adding things again. So this week, funny enough, we started adding items, and there's more to come in next week, the following week, and then we're going to stop again for a little while.
No. Now, the other thing is you do still have the Kasbah Club, and so we have about 95,000 travel advisors with clients who obviously are a few Beatle fans out there. They can come to this, they send their clients here, and also you have tours of the Kasbah Club. Where should they contact you to get this all arranged?
Well, for the Kasbah Coffee Club, they can book online through petebest.com. The Kasbah Coffee Club tours have to be pre-booked. With regards to the Magical Beatles Museum, again, there's a website, magicalbeatlesmuseum.com. You can book through the website. There's different tour operators that you can book through to come here, or you can just land up on the day. Up on the day. In fact,
you were dealing with the phone, say somebody wants a tour tomorrow, and you said, let's see if we can fit them in, right?
That's right, yeah.
Well, Roag, thank you very much for taking the time to explain this. I enjoyed when we were here a few years ago and we saw the Kasbah Club, and then we heard that you had just opened this museum about a year ago, and we definitely had to come by to see it. It looks great. It's really a fabulous attraction for your clients who are into the Beatles and know everything about. If they thought they know everything about it, they got to come here and find out more, right?
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
But thank you again. It's been amazing and good to see you again.
James, been great to see you again, and thanks so much for coming and visiting us.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.